Hi there, and welcome back to our daily reading of the Oz books. We are in our second to last day reading through the book Glinda of Oz by L. Frank Baum. Yesterday's reading, we still have Glinda and the rescue party trying to figure out how to raise the island or even get to the island that Queen Coo had submerged. Ervic made it into the cottage that is owned by Red Rira, a Yukahoo who can transform things, and he convinces her to transform the three fish into three girl adepts, and they're back in their regular forms and can do magic again and admit who they are. So let's go ahead and read our 2 chapters today and see what happens as we're nearing the end of the book here. This is chapter 20, A Puzzling Problem. Glinda the Good, having decided to try her sorcery upon the abandoned submarine so that it would obey her commands, asked all of her party, including the Skeezers, to withdraw from the shore of the lake to the line of the palm trees. She kept with her only the little Wizard of Oz, who was her pupil and knew how to assist her in magic rites. When they two were alone beside the stranded boat, Glinda said to the wizard, "I shall first try my magic recipe number 1163, which is intended to make inanimate objects move at my command. Have you a stereoscope with you?" "Yes, I always carry one in my bag," replied the wizard. He opened his black bag of magic tools and took out a brightly polished stereoscope, which he handed to the sorceress. Glinda had also brought a small wicker bag containing various requirements of sorcery, and from this she took a parcel of powder and a vial of liquid. She poured the liquid into a stereoscope and added the powder. At once it began to sputter and emit sparks of a violet color, which spread in all directions. The sorceress instantly stepped into the middle of the boat and held the instrument so that the sparks fell all around her and covered every bit of the blackened steel boat. At the same time, Glinda crooned a weird incantation in the language of sorcery, her voice sounding low and musical. After a little while, the violet sparks ceased, and those that had fallen upon the boat had disappeared and left no mark upon its surface. The ceremony was ended, and Glinda returned the stereoscope to the wizard, who put it away in his black bag. "That ought to do the business all right," he said confidently. "Let us make a trial and see," she replied. So they both entered the boat and seated themselves. Speaking in a tone of command, the sorceress said to the boat, "Carry us across the lake to the farther shore." At once, the boat backed off the sandy beach, turned its prow, and moved swiftly over the water. Very good indeed," cried the wizard, when the boat slowed up at the shore opposite from whence they had departed. "Even Coo, with all her witchcraft, could do no better." The sorceress now said to the boat, "Close up, submerge, and carry us to the basement door of the sunken island, the door from which you emerged at the command of Queen Coo." The boat obeyed. As it sank into the water, the top sections rose from the sides and joined together over the heads of Glinda and the wizard, who were thus enclosed in a waterproof chamber. There were 4 glass windows in the covering, one on each side and one on either end, so that the passengers could see exactly where they were going. Moving under the water more slowly than on the surface, the submarine gradually approached the island and halted with its bow pressed against the huge marble door in the basement under the dome. This door was tightly closed, and it was evident to both Glinda and the wizard that it would not open to admit the underwater boat unless a magic word was spoken by them or someone from within the basement of the island. But what was this magic word? Neither of them knew. "I'm afraid," said the wizard regretfully, "that we can't get in after all, unless your sorcery can discover the word to open the marble door." "That is probably some word only known to Queen Coo ee oh," replied the sorceress. "I may be able to discover what it is, but that will require time. Let us go back to our companions." "It seems a shame, after we made the boat obey us, to be balked by just a marble door," grumbled the wizard. At Glenda's command, the boat rose until it was on a level with the glass dome that covered the Skeezer village, when the sorceress made it slowly circle all around the great dome. Many faces were pressed against the glass from the inside, eagerly watching the submarine, and in one place were Dorothy and Ozma, who quickly recognized Glenda and the wizard through the glass windows of the boat. Glenda saw them too, and held the boat close to the dome, while the friends exchanged greetings in pantomime. Their voices, unfortunately, could not be heard through the dome, and the water and the side of the boat. The wizard tried to make the girls understand, through signs, that he and Glenda had come to their rescue, and Ozma and Dorothy understood this from the very fact that the sorceress and the wizard had appeared. The two girl prisoners were smiling and in safety, and knowing this, Glenda felt she could take all the time necessary in order to effect their final rescue. As nothing more could be done just then, Glenda ordered the boat to return to shore, and it obeyed readily. First, it ascended to the surface of the water, then the roof parted and fell into the slots at the side of the boat, and then the magic craft quickly made the shore and beached itself on the sands at the very spot from which it had departed at Glenda's command. All the Oz people and Skeezers at once ran to the boat to ask if they had reached the island, and whether they had seen Ozma and Dorothy. The wizard told them of the obstacle they had met in the way of the marble door, and how Glenda would now have to undertake to find a magic way to conquer the door. Realizing that it would require several days to succeed in reaching the island, raising it, and liberating their friends and the Skeezer people, Glenda now prepared a camp halfway between the lakeshore and the palm trees. The wizard's wizardry made a number of tents appear, and the sorcery of the sorceress furnished these tents all complete, with beds, chairs, tables, rugs, lamps, and even books with which to pass idle hours. All the tents had the royal banner of Oz flying from the center poles, and one big tent, not now occupied, had Ozma's own banner moving in the breeze. Betsy and Trot had a tent to themselves, and Button Bright and Ojo had another. The Scarecrow and the Tin Woodman paired together in one tent, and so did Jack Pumpkinhead and the Shaggy Man, Cap'n Bill and Uncle Henry, Tick-Tock and Professor Wogglebug. Glenda had the most splendid tent of all, except that reserved for Ozma, while the little wizard had one of his own. Whenever it was mealtime, tables loaded with food magically appeared in the tents of those who were in the habit of eating, and these complete arrangements made the rescue party just as comfortable as they would have been in their own homes. Far into the night, Glenda sat in her tent studying a roll of mystic scrolls in search of a word that would open the basement door of the island and admit her to the great dome. She also made many magical experiments, hoping to discover something that would aid her. Yet the morning found the powerful sorceress still unsuccessful. Glenda's art could have opened any ordinary door, you may be sure, but you must realize that this marble door of the island had been commanded not to open save in obedience to one magic word, and therefore all other magic words could have no effect on it. The magic word that guarded the door had probably been invented by Coo ee oh, who had now forgotten it. The only way, then, to gain entrance to the sunken island was to break the charm that held the door fast shut. If this could be done, no magic would be required to open it. The next day, the sorceress and the wizard again entered the boat and made it submerge and go to the marble door, which they tried in various ways to open, but without success. We shall have to abandon this attempt, I think, said Glinda. The easiest way to raise the island would be for us to gain admittance to the dome, and then descend to the basement and see in what manner Coo ee oh made the entire island sink or rise at her command. It naturally occurred to me that the easiest way to gain admittance would be by having the boat take us to the basement through the marble door from which Coo ee oh launched it. But there must be other ways to get inside the dome and join Ozma and Dorothy, and such ways we must find by study and the proper use of our powers of magic. It won't be easy, declared the wizard, for we must not forget that Ozma herself understands considerable magic, and has doubtless tried to raise the island, or find other means of escape from it, and failed. That is true, returned Glinda, but Ozma's magic is fairy magic, while you are a wizard, and I am a sorceress. In this way, the three of us have a great variety of magic to work with, and if we should all fail, it will be because the island is raised and lowered by a magic power none of us is acquainted with. My idea, therefore, is to seek, by such magic as we possess, to accomplish our object in another way. They made the circle of the dome again in their boat, and once more saw Ozma and Dorothy through their windows and exchanged signals with the two imprisoned girls. Ozma realized that her friends were doing all in their power to rescue her, and smiled encouragement to their efforts. Dorothy seemed a little anxious, but was trying to be as brave as her companion. After the boat had returned to the camp, and Glinda was seated in her tent, working out various ways by which Ozma and Dorothy could be rescued, the wizard stood on the shore, dreamily eyeing the outlines of the great dome which showed beneath the clear water, when he raised his eyes and saw a group of strange people approaching from around the lake. 3 were young women of stately presence, very beautifully dressed, who moved with remarkable grace. They were followed at a little distance by a good-looking young skeezer. The wizard saw at a glance that these people might be very important, so he advanced to meet them. The 3 maidens received him graciously, and the one with the golden hair said, "I believe you are the famous Wizard of Oz, of whom I have often heard. We are seeking Glinda, the sorceress, and perhaps you can lead us to her." "I can and I will, right gladly," answered the wizard. "Follow me, please." The little wizard was puzzled as to the identity of the 3 lovely visitors, but he gave no sign that might embarrass them. He understood they did not wish to be questioned, and so he made no remarks as he led the way to Glinda's tent. With a courtly bow, the wizard ushered the 3 visitors into the gracious presence of Glinda the Good. Chapter 21. The 3 Adepts. The sorceress looked up from her work as the 3 maidens entered, and something in their appearance and manner led her to rise and bow to them in her most dignified manner. The 3 knelt an instant before the great sorceress, and then stood upright and waited for her to speak. "Whoever you may be," said Glinda, "I bid you welcome." "My name is Auda," said one. "My name is Aurora," said the other. "My name is Ajua," said the third. Glinda had never heard these names before, but looking closely at the 3, she asked, "Are you witches or workers in magic?" "Some of the secret arts we have gleaned from nature," replied the brown-haired maiden modestly, "but we do not place our skill beside that of the great sorceress, Glinda the Good. I suppose you are aware it is unlawful to practice magic in the land of Oz without the permission of our ruler, Princess Ozma." "No, we were not aware of that," was the reply. "We have heard of Ozma, who is the appointed ruler of all this fairyland, but her laws have not yet reached us." Glinda studied the strange maidens thoughtfully. Then she said to them, "Princess Ozma is even now imprisoned in the Skeezer village, For the whole island, with its great dome, was sunk to the bottom of the lake by the witchcraft of Coo ee oh, whom the flathead Sudic transformed into a silly swan. I am seeking some way to overcome Coo ee oh's magic and raise the isle to the surface again. Can you help me do this?" The maidens exchanged glances, and the white-haired one replied, "We do not know, but we will try to assist you. It seems," continued Glinda musingly, "that Coo ee oh derived most of her witchcraft from 3 adepts at magic, who at one time ruled the Flatheads. While the adepts were being entertained by Coo ee oh at a banquet in her palace, she cruelly betrayed them, and after transforming them into fishes, cast them into the lake. If I could find these 3 fishes and return them to their natural shapes, they might know what magic Coo ee oh used to sink the island. I was about to go to the shore and call these fishes to me when you arrived. So, if you will join me, we will try to find them." The maidens exchanged smiles now, and the golden-haired one, Auda, said to Glinda, "It will not be necessary to go to the lake. We are the 3 fishes." "Indeed!" cried Glinda. "Then you are the 3 adepts at magic, restored to your proper forms?" "We are the 3 adepts," admitted Ajua. "Then," said Glinda, "my task is half accomplished. But who destroyed the transformation that made you fishes?" "We have promised not to tell," answered Aurora. "But this young skeezer was largely responsible for our release. He is brave and clever, and we owe him our gratitude." Glinda looked at Ervic, who stood modestly behind the adepts, hat in hand. "He shall be properly rewarded," she declared, "for in helping you, he has helped us all, and perhaps saved his people from being imprisoned forever in a sunken island." The sorceress now asked her guests to seat themselves, and a long talk followed, in which the Wizard of Oz shared. "We are quite certain," said Aurora, "that if we could get inside the dome, we could discover Coo ee oh's secrets. For in all her work, after we became fishes, she used the formulas and incantations and arts that she stole from us. She may have added to the things, but they were the foundation of all her work." "What means do you suggest for our getting into the dome?" inquired Glinda. The 3 adepts hesitated to reply, for they had not yet considered what could be done to reach the inside of the great dome. While they were in deep thought, and Glinda and the Wizard were quietly awaiting their suggestions, into the tent rushed Trot and Betsy, dragging between them the Patchwork Girl. "Oh, Glinda," cried Trot, "Scraps has thought of a way to rescue Ozma and Dorothy and all the Skeezers." The 3 adepts could not avoid laughing merrily, for not only were they amused by the queer form of the Patchwork Girl, but Trot's enthusiastic speech struck them as really funny. If the great sorceress and the famous wizard and the 3 talented adepts at magic were unable, as yet, to solve the important problem of the sunken isle, there was little chance for a patched girl stuffed with cotton to succeed. But Glinda, smiling indulgently at the earnest faces turned toward her, patted the children's heads and said, "Scraps is very clever. Tell us what she has thought of, my dear." "Well," said Trot, "Scraps says that if you could dry up all the water in the lake, the island would be on dry land, and everyone could come and go whenever they liked." Glinda smiled again, but the Wizard said to the girls, "If we should dry up the lake, what would become of all the beautiful fishes that now live in the water?" "Dear me, that's so," admitted Betsy, crestfallen. "We never thought of that, did we, Trot?" "Couldn't you transform them into pollywogs?" asked Scraps, turning a somersault and then standing on one leg. "You could give 'em a teeny little pond to swim in, and then they'd be just as happy as they were as fishes." No, indeed, replied the wizard severely. It is wicked to transform any living creatures without their consent, and the lake is the home of the fishes and belongs to them. All right, said Scraps, making a face at him. I don't care. It's too bad, sighed Trot, for I had thought we'd struck a splendid idea. So you did, declared Glinda, her face now grave and thoughtful. There is something in the Patchwork Girl's idea that may be of real value to us. I think so, too, agreed the golden-haired adept. The top of the great dome is only a few feet below the surface of the water. If we could reduce the level of the lake until the dome sticks a little above our water, we could remove some of the glass and let ourselves down into the village by means of ropes. And there would be plenty of water left for the fishes to swim in, added the white-haired maiden. If we succeed in raising the island, we could fill the lake again, suggested the brown-haired adept. I believe, said the wizard, rubbing his hands together in delight, that the Patchwork Girl has shown us the way to success. The girls were looking curiously at the three beautiful adepts, wondering who they were. So Glinda introduced them to Trot and Betsy and Scraps, and then sent the children away while she considered how to carry the new idea into effect. Not much could be done that night, so the wizard prepared another tent for the adepts, and in the evening Glinda held a reception and invited all her followers to meet the new arrivals. The adepts were greatly astonished at the extraordinary personages presented to them, and marveled that Jack Pumpkinhead and the Scarecrow and the Tin Woodman and Tick-Tock could really live and think and talk just like other people. They were especially pleased with the lively Patchwork Girl and loved to watch her antics. It was quite a pleasant party, for Glinda served some dainty refreshments to those who could eat, and the Scarecrow recited some poems, and the Cowardly Lion sang a song in his deep bass voice. The only thing that marred their joy was the thought that their beloved Ozma and dear little Dorothy were yet confined in the great dome of the sunken island. That's the end of our reading for today. We are going to read 3 chapters and finish the book tomorrow, so I hope you will come back tomorrow and join me as we do finish the book. Until then, have a wonderful rest of your day.